There is one mistake that keeps most people powerless their entire lives. They think power comes from addition. More knowledge, more discipline, more skills, more connections, more good habits. But that's not how power is built. Power doesn't begin with what you add. It begins with what you're willing to remove. Machiavelli understood this. He didn't look at human beings through moral fantasy. He looked at them as they really are, easily moved by perception, easily shaped by appearances, always watching for weakness. In that world, power doesn't belong to the best person. It belongs to the person who manages himself with the most secrecy, the most precision, and the fewest leaks. Malcolm X understood the same thing from a different angle. In prison, he didn't become powerful by adding more of who he was. He became powerful by eliminating who he had been. The hustler, the street name, the scattered energy. He transformed through subtraction, and he did it quietly, behind prison walls, where nobody was watching. Both men knew something most people never learn. If you want to become powerful, tell no one. Don't announce that you're changing. Don't post about your transformation. The moment you announce it, you give the world a chance to interfere. The people who benefited from your softness will resist it. The people who are comfortable seeing you small will feel uneasy when you draw boundaries. So if you're tired of putting in effort without becoming sharper or more dangerous, maybe the problem isn't what you still need to gain. Maybe it's what you haven't had the courage to cut. There are 10 things like that. 10 leaks. 10 silent traitors hiding inside the way you operate. The first is overexplaining. You explain too much because you're afraid of being misunderstood. You explain because you want approval. And every time you do it, you lower your position without realizing it. When you overexplain, you're telling the other person that your decision isn't strong enough to stand on its own. Machiavelli wrote that the appearance of power matters as much as power itself. A man who constantly justifies himself appears weak, even if his reasons are good. Malcolm X learned to let his decisions stand without holding them up with endless words. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. That sentence doesn't beg for agreement. It stands there. Learn to do the same. The second thing is excessive availability. You're too easy to reach, too easy to pull into a conversation, too easy to claim a piece of time from. Human beings rarely respect what is always available. Your time is no different. If anyone can get it without effort, without waiting, you yourself begin to be felt as a convenience rather than a force. Machiavelli understood that scarcity creates value. The people who are seen as important control access to themselves. Malcolm X didn't make himself available to everyone who wanted his attention. He understood strategic withdrawal. Create a delay between other people's demands and your reactions. Let messages wait. A person who is too easy to access will always be used more than respected. The third is visible emotional reaction. Every time someone says one sentence and your face reveals that it hit you, you're giving away data. And data is power. The more someone knows what moves you, the more they know how to steer you. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear compassionate but never be controlled by compassion. Malcolm X mastered this. He learned emotional control in prison. He let his face betray him less. You don't need to become stone. You only need to become harder to read. The fourth is free advice. You're giving away your mind as if it has no price. Someone has a problem, and you jump in to solve it. You think you're being generous, but you're teaching other people that your strategic thinking is something they can access for free. A powerful person is selective about where strategic value gets placed. Malcolm X didn't waste his clarity on people who weren't serious about change. Neither should you. The fifth is relationships kept alive only by habit. There are people in your life who are no longer enemies, but they're not allies either. They're just leftovers from an older version of you. Machiavelli understood that a man's position is shaped not only by enemies he resists, but by people he permits around him. Malcolm X cut ties with his entire past life when it no longer served his transformation. Not every relationship needs a dramatic ending. Many should end through disciplined withdrawal. Stop watering it. What is no longer fed will die on its own. The sixth is visible struggle. You keep talking about how busy you are, how exhausted, how hard you're grinding. But what other people often see is simply that you're struggling. Machiavelli knew that appearances matter more than truth. If your surface is always fatigue and strain, in their minds you become someone who must constantly fight to keep himself together. The powerful let the hardest work happen behind closed doors. They step forward with results. Results always weigh more than stories about effort. The seventh is complaint. When you constantly talk about how unfair life is, how difficult the environment is, you condition yourself into victimhood. Machiavelli wrote about controlling fortune through will. Malcolm X said, "Don't be in a hurry to condemn because he doesn't do what you do or think as you think." A powerful person doesn't spend much language on what he hates. He either fixes it, uses it, or leaves it. The eighth is negotiable standards. You say you have principles, but your principles are softer than you think. Someone crosses the line and you still let it go. People learn your boundaries by pushing against them. Malcolm X didn't negotiate on his core principles. Once he found his standards, they became walls, not fences. A wall doesn't argue, it doesn't explain, it just stands there. The ninth is information leakage. You tell too much. Your plans, your next move, your private fears, your current conflicts. The moment information leaves your mouth, it no longer belongs to you. Machiavelli understood that power is tied to asymmetry of information. The man who knows more and reveals less holds the advantage. Malcolm X was strategic about what he revealed and when. Become more private, not fake, just private. The 10th thing, and the root of all others, is the need for approval. This is the biggest leak. You explain because you want approval. You stay too available because you're afraid of being left out. You show emotion because you want to be understood. Look closely. A lot of what you call personality is really just a strategy for getting validation. Malcolm X transformed when he stopped living for other people's validation. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who needs everyone to like him will never hold power. A powerful person no longer uses other people's faces as the primary mirror for his worth. Once this root is cut, the other 9 leaks begin to dry up. You no longer feel the urge to explain everything, stay too available, react to be understood, give away intelligence, keep people by betraying standards, reveal plans to feel connected. You become quieter, but heavier. Need less, but become more dangerous. Less pleasing to everyone, but more real to yourself. Real change doesn't need an audience. It needs secrecy, consistency, and absolute loyalty to the stronger version of you being built. Tomorrow, choose one leak and seal it. Not all 10 at once, just one. But seal it for real. Let the people who once knew how to use you realize too late that the lock has been changed. That's how Machiavelli and Malcolm X saw the world. Not naively, not sentimentally, but by looking directly at one difficult truth. Either you learn to govern the places where you're easiest to exploit, or the world will use those places to decide your position. So stop asking what else you need to add to become powerful. Ask the better question, what will I cut away today so I stop betraying myself? And then do it in silence. No noise, no announcement, no witnesses.